3 summers ago, started a program called Selfie Camps. Selfie stands for Self-Inspiration and Empowerment, and this is a 5-day program for girls entering middle school that takes place during the summer. It is entirely run by high school students who want to give back to girls in their community and who have recently faced the challenges that these girls now entering middle school will be facing. So at Selfie Camps, girls come together to gain confidence and a sense of self through 5 themes of empowerment, which match each of our 5 days. These themes are self-care, self-acceptance, self-expression, self-defense, and the last day is self to others. Because the idea is that once you develop a sense of self and resilience, you're better enabled to give to others and form a supportive network of girls. And I think as a middle schooler myself, I did not feel this supportive network of girls, and so I decided that I needed to help create it. And there was no existing really infrastructure for high school students such as myself to give back and share our experiences. So I created this program to encourage the heart of young girls and help them to see and embrace their own potential as well as one another's, because when we accept ourselves, we learn to accept others as well. Secondly, model the way. This isn't necessarily a project, but it's an approach to life for me. And in all of my interactions and how I use social media even, I try to model the way of what I think women's empowerment is and what it means to inspire other women and girls. So if it's as small as not letting my roommate stare in front of the mirror and beat herself up, that is how I try to model the way, and I will stop girls from talking about themselves like that. And I think this is something that each of us has the power to do in our daily lives, is to empower one another and to lift one another up. And even in smaller, more superficial ways, everything counts. Everything is helpful. Thirdly, enabling others to act. So I think how I have most recently at least enabled others to act is through my work in India. I belong to the Harvard Leadership Institute, and under that umbrella institute, I'm part of a program called Youth Lead the Change. And at Youth Lead the Change, we run a 5-day conference where we help build students' leadership capacity so that they, and then incubate and use the tools of the leadership and public speaking that we teach them to incubate a social change project if they're choosing. So I traveled with a group of 5 students to Delhi back in January, and I had the absolute pleasure of working specifically with 12 young women who are in their final few years of high school in India, and helping them to each develop a social change project centered around women, because that is what they were most passionate about. And we got to work together to help them realize the change that they wanted to see. And just as a side note, I said this to a few of you who were there, of Zonta members who were there on Sunday, that I asked these girls what they saw as the biggest, most pressing challenge for women in India, and each of them, without hesitating, said child marriage. Just interesting. So fourthly, improve the process. My father is a negotiation expert, and so through him, I've had exposure to talking a lot about process and how we do things rather than what we do. And I've learned through him and through helping teach a negotiation course at the University of Victoria that it is critical to look at how we approach an issue and the coalitions and teams we are building in order to eventually allow for the outcomes that we so desire. And looking at collaboration, and through this kind of negotiation perspective that I've gained, I've also looked at how can we create space for women at the negotiation table itself. And that is an essential part of process. So I think improving the process, I have been able to do that through my understanding of negotiation, and now I bring that to different projects on campus at Harvard, where I belong to the Harvard International Negotiation Program, and we're teaching negotiation to young women as well as boys. And then fifthly, inspire a shared vision. And I think hopefully I strive to do that in my capacity as the Zonta Youth Observer and through my blog posts and my writing. But also, I think where I've done this is through some of my advocacy at We Day, which was kind of the big breaking point in my own life of coming into my own voice. And as a child, I struggled with mental illness, and after having overcome this illness, I felt the need in high school to give back and to share my story, to destigmatize mental health issues, and to enable open and honest conversations so that we can support others who are struggling. And so I had my coming out on stage to 18,000 people, having not told even my closest friends about this illness, and that was my big step in inspiring a shared vision of a world where girls aren't limited to stereotypes about what it means to have a mental illness, and where they won't be treated differently as a result, and so that they can seek help. And I think this was the start of my real movement towards advocacy, and it's something I continue to try to do through other projects at school and in my daily life. So those are my 5 pillars of leadership, and I hope that you can take away from them these 5 lessons, which have been so helpful for me to understanding how to mobilize women and advance the rights of girls through these leadership practices. Thank you.